Hi, I'm Mandy Walker, and you're watching My Divorce Pal, the divorce coaching program that helps you make the decisions that are best for you. This is the Is Divorce Right for Me track, and today we're talking about wishing your spouse was dead. This is one of those hush-hush topics about divorce, and it isn't talked about openly because you're just not supposed to think like this. It's bad, it's dark, and it's mean, and that must make you a bad person. But people do think like this, and it's way more common than you may realize. Your spouse is on a business trip and the thought pops into your mind that there might be an accident at the airport, and you imagine that you would feel relieved. Or perhaps your spouse is late getting home and you haven't heard from them, and you wonder if maybe they've put their car in a ditch. Or there's a news story about a horrible fatality and the reporter is talking to a grief-stricken spouse. You're watching and you don't like to admit it, but you can't imagine grieving like that if it was you the reporter was talking to. I like to think that most of us don't truly wish our spouse was dead. But what we're really thinking is that we wish we were divorced without having to go through all the ugliness of the divorce itself. We're looking for an easy way out, because then you wouldn't have to explain about your marriage to any of your family or your friends. You wouldn't have to deal with the disapproval from anyone. No, far from it. You'd have this outpouring of sympathy. Yes, it would be hard on the kids, but then they'd never have to know what was going on in your marriage. Unfortunately, though, there's no fast-forward button. There is no easy way out. And if you want out of your marriage, you will have to tell your spouse, and you'll have to go through the legal process. And if you're fantasizing about your spouse dying, then it is absolutely time for you to face the realities of your marriage. Now, one of the first things I like to recommend is that you set up your personal support team. These are your 3 or 4 closest friends, and they're the people you can confide in and trust and know that they won't be gossiping behind your back or relaying what you've said to your spouse. They're the people who have your back, and they're good at brainstorming, and they're not afraid to call you out or challenge you when you're not being smart or when you're behaving poorly. I usually recommend against choosing people who are friendly with both you and your spouse. This is because you could be putting them in a very awkward situation with information that you want kept confidential. And oftentimes, sharing details of marital difficulties will change the friendship dynamic. It's not important that the people you choose have experience with divorce. In some ways, it's better if they don't. Every divorce is different, and what happened to one person isn't necessarily relevant to your specific situation. Once you've identified your team members, you need to approach them, preferably in person, and if not in person, then over the phone. Explain to them that your marriage is deeply troubled, that you're trying to figure out what to do, and ask them if they would be willing to be one of your trusted advisors. If they say no, thank them for their time and leave it at that. There's no point in pressuring them. If they say yes, then it's time to have a deeper conversation and truly open up with what has been happening in your marriage. Whether you do this one-on-one or in a group depends on if your friends know each other and if it can be easily arranged. It really comes down to what you're most comfortable with. Next, I'd recommend that you learn everything you can about divorce. And you've already started with this by joining My Divorce Pal. Now, there are 2 reasons for this research. First, you might find that the reality of divorce isn't as bad as you've built it up to be. Second, this will help you identify specifically what it is that you find most intimidating. Once you have that, you can work on different strategies for handling the situation. This is where the internet is your friend. Use it to understand the different divorce processes: mediation, collaborative, traditional, what the divorce process looks like for where you live, and identify any special circumstances in your situation, such as a special needs child, a chronic health condition, foreign citizenship, a large inheritance, lots of debt, that sort of thing. Get familiar with your financial situation and start trying to visualize how a co-parenting arrangement might work. You'll probably find it helpful to have an initial consultation with a divorce attorney. Some attorneys do offer this at no charge, and you may be able to get free advice from local seminars. Your local chapter for the American Bar Association is a good place to start with this. Once you have your initial consult set up, go in prepared for the meeting with the specifics of your situation and your particular concerns. The research you've already done will help you make the most effective use of the attorney's time. And consider taking a member of your personal support team with you. It might be hard for you to take in and accurately remember everything that is said. Now, before you get started on this though, let's talk about safety and privacy. You may not have spoken to your spouse about your divorce yet, or if you have, they may not be aware that you are now seriously or actively considering it. If you're not prepared to discuss it further at the moment, for whatever reason, then you need to be discreet with your research. So for example, either do your computer research from a machine that your spouse doesn't access, or learn how to clear your browsing history. Have a secure place to store your research paperwork and make sure your spouse doesn't have access to any voicemails, text messages, or emails. Check out the resources section for more on staying safe. So to recap, wishing your spouse was dead is not uncommon, and it's a sign that you're looking for an easy way out of your marriage. Since there is no easy way out, it means it's time for you to confront reality. Start by creating your personal support team, and then start researching divorce so you get a more accurate idea of what divorce will mean to you. Instead of it just being this great big scary monster, you want to get to where you know specifically what frightens you, and then you can begin to develop a plan for tackling those areas and making them less intimidating. I'm Mandy Walker. I'm wishing you strength and courage. Thank you for watching My Divorce Pal. I'll see you next time.